day is probably the single most important day in a really big step for us, our family, to be completely self-sufficient. So here on Mulberry Branch Farm, on our little homestead, we raise Nigerian dwarf goats. We raise them primarily for milk. We raise chickens for eggs. We also beekeep, and we got our first harvest of honey this year. We attempt to garden some years. It's a good garden. Some years we grow weeds. This year, it's a little bit of a mix. But today is a big day because today is the first time we will be butchering our own chickens. These guys are huge. They are huge. They've been ready to butcher for about 2 weeks, but quite frankly, life has just gotten in the way. But today is the day. Today is the day we're going to take our Cornish rock crosses that started out as our daughter's 4-H project and let them meet their life cycle full term. These are primarily a meat bird. Cornish rock crosses are bred specifically to put on meat and to put it on fast. And the reason I say that we're a couple weeks past is usually you want to shoot for around 6 to 8 weeks with your Cornish rock cross, and let's just say we're way past 6 to 8 weeks. These guys can grow themselves into health hazard. They can grow until they cause themselves to have heart issues, where they just die, or they'll actually break their own legs because they've been bred to put on so much meat so fast they break themselves down. So really, when it comes to this breed, it is the most humane thing that you can do for this market breed, to butcher and put it in your freezer. I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna get ready to take these guys up to get close to the station up here by the house where we will be doing our harvesting today. This is my first time, guys. There's a 99.9% chance that none of this is gonna go according to plan, but this is a moment where we're going to be learning and hopefully help you learn a lot and get through those beginner jitters, because as much as I'd like to tell you that I'm not nervous and I'm completely confident in what I'm doing, I'm not. But I'm learning, and that's what's important in this situation, is learning a new skill that's going to help our family be self-sufficient. And if you're new to the channel and you're not really familiar with the way that we do things here, these guys were started in a brooder, and they were kept in the brooder until they were big enough and the environment, particularly our climate, was warm enough to support them without a heating plate, where they could come outside and it wouldn't make them sick, it wouldn't affect them internally or anything like that. But they've been out on pasture since 3 weeks old, and their tractor got moved every single day. So they had fresh grass every single day. I know exactly what went into these chickens. We made sure their water was clean twice a day. Sometimes their tractor got moved twice a day if they needed it. They got plenty of food. They even got some snuggles here and there, even though meat chickens aren't particularly the most friendly, nor are they the most cuddly chickens that you could have. But they have certainly been raised to the finest care that we can provide them here. They've experienced a life that most caged birds that are meant for market don't get to experience. They experience grass. They weren't in a cage their entire life. So this makes it a little bit easier for me, knowing that we're giving these birds the one bad day, that they've had an exceptionally good life all up until today, where their purpose comes full cycle. So while this kind of hurts my heart a little bit, and I don't take it lightly at all, it makes me proud to know that the food going in my freezer started its life here, it ended its life here, and I know all of the care and all of the things that were put into this animal. And the greatest thing that I can do for this animal in honoring its life is making sure that I use every bit that I can from this harvest. And I'm very thankful for these chickens for giving up their life so that my family and I can eat. So to get set up, Mark's bringing out what we're going to use is a scalder. So we have a fish fry kit, but we're going to end up putting the birds in there to scald. So we'll be putting a pot like right on top of that. We've got our yard bird chicken plucker. This is where I'll be doing all the eviscerating. And then this right here is a food grade barrel that we've cleaned out, and I'm filling it with cold water so that when I'm done eviscerating, I can go ahead and let the chickens rest in there for a little while. Now, the specific harvesting method that we've used in order to dispatch our chickens is going to be a kill cone. You can tell my cone is not the nice kill cones off of Premier One. It is just an old traffic cone that we bought brand new from our local hardware store for a whopping $14. And we've got a bucket below to catch the blood, but we will lower our chickens down through the top of this kill cone to immobilize them, keep them as still as possible, and then we will dispatch them in a manner that helps to drain the blood quickly and is the least painful in this method. This is gonna be a little tough.
So one alteration we did do is we cut a little bit wider hole at the bottom of the cone, as these chickens are
bigger,
really large, so
chickens.
they had trouble getting down through into the cone.
The quickest way to dispatch your chicken in this manner is to take your knife and to place it right on the jugular where it meets the head. It's a quick motion with very little pressure, just enough to open up the jugular vein to let the chicken bleed out. They'll eventually go to sleep because of blood loss and pass away, though thrashing is very common for a chicken after it's already passed on. He's already gone. He's asleep. That one went really well. That dispatch was pretty good. The ideal temperature to scald your bird is anywhere between 130 and 170 degrees. We're just approaching 130, so we'll get ready to start scalding our birds before we defeather them. So we're going to take this bird and we're going to try to get him all the way up to about right here just to get all the feathers. So I'm going to keep dunking him, and I'm going to test his feathers by trying to pull them. If they come out easily, that means that your bird is scalded enough and you can move it on to be defeathered.
Just be careful dunking.
Yeah.
Because if the water runs over, it might put...
Yeah, the water will run over. I tried to leave enough room, and it's a little, sometimes it can be difficult to get them to dunk all the way down. So the first thing I'm going to start by doing is I'm actually going to take his feet off. These make wonderful dog treats, by the way. Our dogs are currently enjoying them over there. But these are actually really easy to take off once you figure out where the joint is. And you can feel, and like right in the middle here, there's a little bump. So I'm just going to ride right through here. So I'm going to hold it, I'm going to ride down through, take it on the other side. Just keep riding it around until it comes off. Pretty easy. Actually, I think that one is a little bit higher. So we've got the legs off. The next thing I'm going to actually do is take the head off, but I'm going to leave the head on just for a second because you can see where we've made the killing cut. There's the jugular, there's the windpipe, and his esophagus is right there. Also on the right side of the bird. So if I'm holding him towards me, his crop is actually right here. You can kind of feel it. I'm going to try to make sure not to nick that because that's where all the junk that the bird has eaten resides. So even though these guys were not given grain in the last 24 hours, it's still going to have some grass, or if they decided they were going to pick through anything, whatever they've had in the last 24 hours is going to be in their craw. So I'm going to go ahead, and we don't need the head right now, so I'm actually going to take it about right here. There we go. You can see we're just going to take it right off. And there's this windpipe. I'm going to actually use its windpipe and its esophagus to kind of trace. So you guys can see like right under skin, it's right there. So I'm actually going to just take the skin, kind of peel it away. I'm just going to come up underneath and just going to cut it away. Cut it away. I'm going to cut towards this side of the bird because I can actually see his crop is right here. So I'm going to cut away from it while I'm taking the skin off from around the neck because I don't want this on my bird anyways. I don't like chicken neck very much, so it's not a huge issue for me. But if you like chicken neck, then you'll have to just make sure to preserve that. So I'm actually going to get in here. And you can see the craw right there. This is the craw. So I'm going to try to get in there very, very carefully with my knife. You can see the craw right there. And find just this edge. Get the skin out of the way and hold it back. It's really nice, easy cuts. So I can work my fingers in underneath that membrane. Perhaps. Actually, I'm gonna take more of the skin off. I've nicked the craw and it's not pretty, so that's why I'm really trying not to nick it. But if I do, then you guys will be able to see what this bird had in the last 24 hours to eat. So there you can see where it actually goes into the craw, right here. So there's this esophagus, it goes into the craw. I'm just gonna try to get my fingers in between it and the breast so I can just make the tiniest of cuts. Trying to really not cut it because you can actually kind of contaminate your meat a little bit with whatever's in the craw. So we don't want the craw to be cut. Move it. So if I can get back to the small tube that runs back, there it is. So there's the tube that runs back. You can cut it here. Be very ever so careful with your knife, especially if it's a good knife, which really you shouldn't be butchering unless you've got a good knife. Mark has lots of good knives, thankfully. Right, babe?
Try to.
So I'm just going to take this, the rest of this away. You can see our birds were fat. They were fat fellows. They were fat and happy until their very last day. We tried to make sure they have good lives until that one bad day that we must, for our ability to eat and make their full cycle what it is. We've got one bad day. There you go. So the front of the bird is done. So now we're going to take it back to the booty hole. So at the base of every bird's tail, they have an oil gland. And you can see this is the oil gland right here. And then just below that is the booty hole, or the vent, if you want to get scientific with it. So we don't want to eat the oil gland, so I'm just going to take it and just kind of cut down. Just kind of taking it all the way down, taking it off. Now I try to take this off, and you guys can actually see it's excreting oil right now, like as I'm touching it. I'm actually going to try to ride both sides of this down and leave the vent intact, because that way if there is anything in this bird's digestive system towards the end of it, towards the booty hole, it's not going to come out. So I'm actually going to just run the knife right down alongside of the vent just to keep it intact. And if anybody has ever like field dressed a deer, that's also a lot like this. So this area right here, it kind of goes down and back up. This is where you're going to reach your hand into the cavity once this is gone, but we have to be really, really careful removing the skin here, because if we break into the body cavity too soon, we're going to break into its intestines, and that can also taint and affect your meat. So we're going to do our best to cut away lightly. We might fast forward through some of these parts, but you guys will get the gist. We're opening this part up so that we can reach our hand in and pull out all of the innards, and then we'll be cooling our chicken in a barrel of cold water over here. So I'm just going to take this off, tin it a little bit, just bring my knife in through just to kind of get in through it, just nice and easy. And you can almost tell, like, as you're going, the different membranes. And one thing to keep in mind here, that the more you hold it up like this, the innards are going to shift. Gravity can help you when you're butchering or field dressing an animal. So it's really important to kind of keep that in mind. Gravity can help you from hitting the intestines. So you guys can see, just in those few small cuts, I'm already in the body cavity. So I'm just going to kind of run, and I'm bringing my finger in here to guide. I'm going to try not to, really don't want to cut my finger, but I'm going to use it as a guide along this body cavity. So you guys can see we're pretty much into the body cavity now. So I can actually see the innards in here. So I'm going to try to take the skin up. And again, I'm using my sight and I'm using my fingers along as well to kind of guide where I can and can't cut, because I want to bring it all the way up to the booty hole. I know it's not called a booty hole, guys. This is my attempt at a little bit of humor. So I'm actually going to come up now, start trying to take off this, because you'll see if you're not careful about taking this off of the bone back here, the intestine that hits the vent is sitting right here. This is it. So you want to be really, really careful. So I only try to go till I can see that, and I'll start to push it down with one finger. Just start lightly taking off the membranes that hold it in. And we're getting ready to just dive right in. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just cutting all the skin away. And you guys can see try to do this where you guys can kind of, so I'm just going to reach my hand up and in, and I'm going to ride his spine all the way up to the front, and I'm going to just start to pull the innards out. It's going to be gross, so if you don't like it, look away. There's some of the innards. Some skin holding on there. So you guys can see the heart is still in there. There's a heart. The lungs are one of the harder things that I found, because when they deflate, they want to just hug the ribs. I mean, you can definitely eat them. There's a lung. I know, it sounds pretty gross when you're listening. There it comes. Just making sure I see one little last part of the lung at the top. Here you go, lung, heart, some extra blood, and then everything looks to be out. So now I'm actually going to come over here. We've just got a barrel of really cold water, and we're going to be putting our chicken into this water. The reason for that being is when you put it into cold water like that, it helps to cool down the muscles, and it allows them to kind of rest and relax before you freeze them. So this is a good way to keep our chicken nice and cold while we're working outdoors in August. But once we're done with everybody, we will be packaging these in some shrinkable chicken plastic, and it will rest again in our fridge for about 24 hours before we freeze it. So the next time I see you guys, we're going to be inside putting these in some of that shrink wrap, and I'll go over where I got those, where you can get them, and we'll just see how it overall goes for us. So I got my shrink bags for our birds at Texas Poultry on Amazon. It comes with the bags, zip ties, directions that are very helpful, and a straw. I'm going to link these bags down in the description below. This is an affiliate link through Amazon. But first, you need to go ahead and get your bird in the bag. Next, you're going to take the straw that's provided, place it halfway in the bird, halfway outside of the bag. Twist the bag until it's tight enough. Make sure that straw is out, because that's going to allow the air to escape while the plastic is shrinking. Next, take your zip tie and tighten it around the straw and your plastic bag. The water should be anywhere from 180 to 200 degrees or a soft boil before you place your bird in the water. When you place it in, you'll notice that the bag will start shrinking, and this is why it's important to have the straw halfway out. It allows the air to escape. Once the bag is done shrinking, go ahead and place it on your counter or in your fridge. Remove the straw and tighten the zip tie, and you're ready to go. I will say that this entire process was really easy, especially coming from a beginner. I felt like after the first one, I knew exactly what I was doing. I highly recommend these bags. Okay guys, that's it. That's the entire process. Today, we put almost 40 pounds of farm fresh, grass-fed chicken in our freezer. And I could not be more thankful to these birds. They each got a special little thank you before they were sent off, but I am very deeply appreciative of the sacrifice that these birds made so that my family can eat.